So one of my family's favorite appetizer or even side are charro beans. And it takes a little bit of a long time sometimes because you get these beans, you gotta boil them in a pot. Sometimes people cook it in a crock pot overnight. And so it becomes this really, really long process. 100% definitely worth it. But I've found an easier way to cook these charro beans using some cooked beans, these Bush's beans. And so today I'm gonna show you my way of making these charro beans quick and easy. And most of the time, they're actually still the talk of the party. So for this recipe, we're gonna be using a case of bacon, a couple of weenies, 4 tomatoes, 2 onions, some consomé, a little bit of some salt and pepper, and some of my favorite spices. Wow. We also can't forget the can of Bush's pinto beans. First thing we're gonna start off with is our onions. We're gonna start off with dicing our onions. And a little hack that I like to do is I like to get a kitchen towel and I put it under the cutting board to stop it from slipping and sliding, especially with this granite. Sometimes it gets wet and it becomes a little difficult to cut the onions. But another little disclaimer I want to put out there is I'm not a professional chef. I enjoy cooking for my family. So my etiquette, the way I cut, the way I chop, the way I dice, things like that aren't going to be done, you know, the professional way to say, but you know, rock and roll with me. So one way I like to dice this onion is I like to come like this. This is a little hack I learned off of TikTok, is you dice it like this and it becomes, or you slice it in half like this, it becomes a lot easier to dice this way. So I'm going to remove this top thing here. And so just, you know, you cut this part off just like this. And here's that little hack that I learned. So if you just come across like this and just start creating little slices like this. And I like to dice just a little bit fine. My wife personally isn't 100% a big fan of onions. And now she'll eat them in the beans because we do, you know, we do fry them to an extent. But I like to chop them up kind of a little fine, just so my wife sometimes doesn't know they're in there, even the kids. But once we go ahead and we slice over to the side, it becomes so much more easier. You just take your knife and you just cut just like this, and you see how quickly it was. It's all diced up already. And so, a little TikTok hack, right? Learn a lot on TikTok. So just like that, and just like that, you see we got some diced onion. I'm gonna go ahead and dice the other onion. We're gonna go ahead and we're gonna cut our last half an onion here. Same thing, take this peel off. You know, and again, I make these slices just a little bit, you know, thinner than, you know, most charro beans. Some of my favorite charro beans have the onions a little bit bigger, but because my family, they're not the biggest fan of onions or raw onions, because they'll, trust me, they'll tear up these charro beans with onions in them. But they're not the biggest fan of raw onions. You know, I dice them a little bit smaller, but you are more than welcome to dice them, you know, larger if you'd like. It's not going to hurt anybody. Matter of fact, it might add a little bit to them. But we got this last onion chopped up here. Go ahead, throw it on our plate. Next thing we're gonna dice up here are our tomatoes. Again, I am not a professional chef either, so my technique of maybe even dicing up tomatoes aren't gonna be kind of the way that you guys do it, but I split it in half, and then I'll just come down the middle of the half and then just come and just make little strips just like this. And again, these, I try not to make them such a big chunk. Just again, my kids love tomatoes, you know, but again, the idea of tomatoes being so thick and chunky, just cut it up just like so. just dice it up. And that's what we're gonna do with all of our tomatoes. We're just gonna, same thing, come down the middle just like this. Again, this may be completely incorrect. I'm probably gonna get roasted on YouTube here on how I am not properly cutting, dicing tomatoes, but it's okay. It gets the job done, and the food comes out fantastic, so I'm not worried about it. Tomatoes. Go ahead, we'll throw these on our plate. Just like so. And so looking at how many tomatoes, how many dices of tomatoes I got out of these tomatoes, I decided I'm only gonna use 3. We'll save this for another dish. But yeah, I'm only gonna use 3 tomatoes. Got quite a bit out of them. They were a little bigger than the ones I normally get. So we'll do 3 tomatoes. As well as the onions, it looked like I cut a little bit too much onions. So we may end up only using 1.5 onions, and we'll just kind of play that by ear. Next thing we're gonna cut up, dice up, is our bacon. Now, some people normally they'll use only weenies. They'll use some chorizo. Everybody has different ways of making beans. I'm just making them the way my family likes them, the way I enjoy eating them. And so part of that is with bacon. So, and this again could be an optional thing. If you want to just throw some weenies in there, you can do that. If you don't want to throw weenies in there and just do the beans and the vegetables, that is cool too. But this is a family favorite just like this. So that's how we are gonna make it. And here's, again, subjective here. Now, my family, we're big carnivores, so we like the meat. So I don't finely dice up these bacon. What I do is I just cut them in maybe 1/2 inch, you know, just little cubes just like this. You see, just little cubes. And that's kind of the way we like it in our beans. So, again, I don't go too crazy with dicing these up and making them so fine, just because when they get a bite of the beans, you know, they want to be able to get a really nice chunk of the bacon. And then also, you know, one thing to keep in mind is the bacon is going to shrink up once the fat starts to render out on the bacon. It's going to cut. And then again, the weenies, again, subjective. I don't go too crazy with the weenies. These I do them a little bit finer, but you know, I'll normally do about 3 or 4 weenies. I'll do 4 for today. The way I dice these up is I just come, the way I dice them up, I just come just in half, just like this. And we'll do it again, just like this. It doesn't have to be perfect. And then we'll just cube them up, make small little pieces of weenie. This is just a little accent, you know, to what we're doing. Just a little accent to what we're doing. That's it. Same thing here. Cut in half. Then we're coming in again. So each one of these is getting divided into 4. And we just finally cut it up just like so. Got our last weenie, we're cutting up, same thing, in 4s. So we got our weenies cut up. So there we go, we got 4 weenies, so we got 4 weenies, 1 pack of bacon. Next thing we're gonna do is actually, in the meantime, what I've been doing in the back is I've had my pan heating up on medium to high heat. So we're gonna go to our pan, we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna throw these in there. All right, so just like I mentioned, this pan has been on medium heat since we started, just to get it nice and warm. And so what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna grab all this bacon No oil needed. No oil needed. Why don't we need oil? So all this bacon fat is going to render out. It's going to create grease. It's going to create oil all on here. And so that's what we're going to use for our onions, our tomato, all that good stuff. So, you know, medium high heat. I'm actually going to crank it up a little bit more. Now, one thing we're not going to do is we're not going to cook the bacon all the way. The reason why we're going to do that is because we're still going to throw the onions in here. We're going to throw the tomatoes in here. And so for charro beans, me personally, this is, again, personal opinion. I don't like a very crunchy bacon in there. I kind of want to have like a really nice cooked, nice and soft kind of bacon in there. So so I don't cook it all the way, and I let it, as we're cooking the onions, as we're cooking the tomatoes, it's going to continue to cook because we're just going to throw it all in here together all at one time. All right, that looks like it has rendered out enough. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to throw our weenies in here. Again, this was four diced up weenies. So just gonna throw it in here and kind of get them a little charred, a little toasted, get them looking really good. All right. We got it to a pretty good place here. And so the next thing I'm gonna do is grab these onions. Oh, all right, we got it to a good place here. Next thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna grab some onions here. I'm just gonna grab a handful of them, throw them in there. Remember, we chopped up 2 onions. I think it may have been a little bit too much onions, so we're gonna start off with maybe an onion and a half, just like this. And remember, there's all that bacon fat in there that's gonna help cook, caramelize these onions. So we're gonna just let that cook here for a little bit. And trust me, all that bacon fat is enough. It's enough to cook all that. So when are we gonna use our seasonings? $1 million question. Now we are. Here's our salt and pepper. I got this blend from HEB. Shout out to HEB. And yeah, we're gonna put a generous amount on there because again, this is gonna cook with a lot more beans. Next I'm gonna use this. Wow, this is my favorite barbecue seasoning, and I almost don't cook anything without it. And so just a nice little drizzle of that just to kind of cook everything. And so, yep. Oh, I'll take that out that way. Now I'm starting to think I didn't put enough wow. You can never put too much wow. I don't think I've ever put a generous amount and thought it is too much. So, you know, just go back just a little bit more. And all this is going to be to taste. You know, if you're not really big on pepper, then you maybe don't want to put as much pepper. If you're not really into the salt, you know, all of this is to taste. Just giving you an idea of the way I cook it. All right, the next thing we are gonna throw in are our tomatoes. Now that we got a nice little caramel looking onions, we'll throw in our tomatoes in there. You know, hey, why not? Look, we'll throw all that juice in there too. Same thing, we're gonna just kind of cook these a little bit. Tomatoes cook a lot quicker than the onions, so. So we will leave that cooking here for just a couple of minutes, nothing too crazy. All right, this is starting to look good. In the meantime, I'm gonna go open up our beans, get our crock pot ready to go, throw these in the crock pot. So we'll see you on the other side. So while we're waiting for our vegetables to finish cooking back there, I've already opened up this can of beans. I like to use this Bush's Big old can of beans. This is the 111 ounces. And so we'll put these in here. These are already cooked. We'll put these in here and get this opened up. So we're gonna open this up. And now the question is, should I drain out the juice or should I not drain out the juice? We ain't draining out the juice, baby. Coming straight in just like this. So we got these. Right, and it looks like our vegetables are probably done. So let me go grab those vegetables. Yeah, these vegetables are done here. So we're just gonna go and we're gonna just drop these all in here. It's okay. It's gonna get a little messy. That's fine. That's fine. That's fine. So we got these vegetables in here, and we're just gonna give it a really good, nice big stir. So we're gonna go ahead. We're gonna stir these onions, all these vegetables, just like this. Right, and then again, remember to taste. This is where we're gonna use this consomé. This is actually probably the biggest secret to making really good charro beans, right? So how much do you put in here? I don't know, maybe about 2 tablespoons or so. Just a nice generous amount again. Throw it in there. Give it a good mix. And so once I got everything nice and mixed, I'm gonna use this can of beans, and I'm gonna add some water in there. So now that we got all this mixed up really nice, I got my can of beans, and so I just filled this up maybe to about right here, however much that is, maybe a cup and a half of water. We're gonna throw it in here. I know it looks like it is going to overflow, but it is not. Just right to the top, right? We're gonna test our limits here for sure. You need to come and just mix this up. And I think we are at a good point here. And so here's the thing with these charro beans is that you can throw exactly this recipe we just did. You can go ahead, you can throw them on the back, you can throw them on the stove, and they'll be ready in about 10-15 minutes. They'll be nice and warm. They'll still taste good. But if you want to take it up a notch, I'm going to recommend that you put these beans to cook overnight or even throughout the day. So right now I'm cooking them. It's the morning and we will have dinner at about 7. So I'm going to put this crock pot on low and just let these cook, get all the flavors of all the tomato, the onions, the beans, the wow, the consomme, all that good stuff. Just let it just penetrate into each other. So that way each bite you take, it's going to be jam-packed with flavor. And so that's the way I suggest cooking it. And so I'm gonna put this on low. I'm gonna put this crock pot to the side. I'm gonna come back maybe in about 2-3 hours, take a look at them, see where they're at, see if they're ready to go. But we are gonna have these for dinner. All right, guys, so the beans have been cooking for about 7.5, 8 hours now. And so I just checked on them. They're looking pretty good. But one thing I forgot to mention in the video as far as an ingredient is going to be some cilantro. I had this in the fridge just because, you know, I wanted to keep it cool and totally crossed my mind. But I got it now. And about this time, we're about maybe 30 minutes to an hour that we're about to have dinner. And so that's when I like to put in the cilantro. So that way it's just nice and fresh. So, you know, we're just gonna chop it up. Remember, I am not a professional chef at all. So I don't got, you know, the best chopping skills and whatnot, but this is just kind of the way I chop cilantro. It's worked for me in the past. So if it ain't broke, don't fix it, right? And so this is just one of those ingredients that kind of make the charro beans a little fresh. And so I like to wait till the end. And again, if you like cilantro, you can put as much as you like. If you don't care for it, you know, maybe don't put as much. But I will recommend it. You know, most charro beans that you have, they're gonna have cilantro. So, you know, go ahead, feel free to add as little or as much as you'd like. And so again, I finally slice it, you know. So that is pretty darn good right there. So, all right, so we are about 7.5 hours. Whew, this smells good. 7.5 hours to maybe almost 8 hours of cooking these beans. Tell you, they look amazing. They smell amazing. All these flavors are just penetrating all into here. And I mean, again, these are good to go. You can go ahead, you can eat them, you can have them right now. No problem at all. But, you know, we want to add that fresh ingredient here. And so here's the cilantro, you know, and again, you can put as little or as much as you'd like to put. So I went ahead, I put in about 2 handfuls in there. I'm gonna go ahead and stir it and just kind of just see what it looks like, you know, and it does tend to just kind of stay at the surface. So, you know, don't be scared to stir it. Man, these beans look so good, smell so good. I cannot wait to try them out here in a little bit. So there you go, just like that. You know, maybe a little more cilantro, why not, right? And just like that. We will let them sit here with the cilantro in here for maybe about a good 30 minutes. And then we'll come back. We'll actually take a look at the beans, see what the final product looks like. And I'll go ahead and I'll show it to you before we have dinner. So we will be back here in about 30 minutes or so. All right, so it's been about 30, maybe even 45 minutes since we put our cilantro in there. And I think it is good to go. Oh, it smells so good. But yeah, let's see what these beans taste like. Go ahead and we'll just grab some beans. Grab a little bit of that juice, right? That's what charro beans are all about. A little juice, and let's give it a little taste test here. They are hot, man. They've been cooking again for almost a little over 8 hours now. So let's see what they taste like. Fantastic. You know what it's missing though? It's missing a little bit of some homemade salsa. So here we got the homemade salsa. Let's see what it tastes like after putting some salsa in here. Give it a nice little stir. Now it has the kick. You know, these beans, fantastic, easy to make. We already use cooked beans. It's something you can throw in the crock pot overnight, not worry about it. If you're gonna have dinner the following night, trust me, just keep it on the warm setting low. It'll work just great. And I'll tell you, man, these beans are gonna have people talking at your party. A lot of them aren't even gonna know that they were homemade. I hope you enjoyed this recipe, and we'll see you again at the next video.